momento prego la chiamano per una collettiva. Bleiben Sie bitte am Apparat, Sie werden für ein Konferenzgespräch verlangt. Un instant, s'il vous plaît, on vous demande pour une conversation conférence.
Pronto? Ciao Poppy! Adesso vi passo Chiara!
We're going on a tour around the world. It'll take a bit of time because the world's quite big.
È una conferenza telefonica.
It's a conference call where I give a strong spiritual thought that we can live together. When we call the zones and they answer, "Hello, how are you?" So it's the life of a family. It's wonderful.
Meraviglia.
Its aim is to help us go on a holy journey, a journey towards holiness.
Ciao a tutti e benvenuti a questo nuovo
Hello everyone and welcome to this new appointment with the Link Up.
How exciting to see these photos together. The pictures of our big worldwide family gathered together in different parts of the world. This occasion was the special December Link Up dedicated to the 80th anniversary of the Focolare movement.
Very moving indeed. Thank you to all those who sent us pictures of that moment. You can also do so today if you wish, by sending us photos and messages to the number written on the screen.
It's time to introduce ourselves. I'm Lorenzo, married to Maria, and we have two children, Beatrice and Gabriele.
I'm Maria Grazia and I'm married to Giuseppe. We have a 3-year-old boy called Simone and another one on the way.
So there will be 3 of us leading this Link Up.
Apparently so.
So, the common thread, the path we want to follow today is proclamation, that call that makes us stand up and pushes us to act, to go ahead, to put ourselves out there, going towards the other.
Exactly. It's the topic that in our personal history, in the history of the movement, is interpreted in various ways. One of these ways is dialogue, and dialogue, which in its Greek origin means through the word, has recently been at the heart of numerous meetings between Christians of various churches, which were held from the end of 2023 until today. Let's take a look at some of them.
From the 13th to the 14th of October 2023, a meeting was held at the Mariapolis Centre in Casa Gandolfo. 150 people attended from the Focolare movement, belonging to 15 churches and from various vocations. It was a moment of deep communion and a witness of a constant commitment to unity at all levels.
From the 16th to the 18th of November 2023, the city of Timișoara, Romania, hosted the annual meeting of Together for Europe on the theme Call to Unity. It was a moment of sharing that brought together 51 movements representing over 300 Christian realities and communities. A 3-day event marked by prayer, reflections, testimonies, workshops and networking. In the light of what is afflicting the world today, Gerard Pross, moderator of Together for Europe, emphasized its vocation to act in order to reach cooperation, unity and reconciliation. He affirmed, Jesus himself entered into the deepest cracks of this world, and there he created a space for life.
Let's now move to Beirut, Lebanon. A large choir made up of over 200 people of different ages and denominations sang in front of 11,000 participants during the week of prayer for Christian unity. This event coincided with the 50th anniversary of the Middle East Council of Churches. Christians belonging to all denominations were present, including bishops and patriarchs. Among the promoters was Bishop Antoine Bou-Najem, who said, "Today we are living in very difficult situations for our country, Lebanon. Our Christian civilization says, let's praise the Lord as Christians, all together, with one heart."
Dare to be one, osare l'unità.
Dare to be One was the title of the Conference of Bishops from various churches, Friends of the Focolare Movement, which took place from the 27th of February to the 1st of March in Augsburg, Germany. Andrea Fleming reports.
Leitwort war für mich in den ganzen Tagen.
Throughout these days, I was guided by this phrase of Jesus Christ. I no longer call you servants, because I no longer consider you as servants, but I've called you friends. And since we're his friends, we're friends with one another. And this was very tangible. There's such a difference between a theological ecumenism, which we grasp with our minds, and an ecumenism of the heart that is expressed in relationships, based on the relationship with Christ, with which it's nourished. This is what is so special here.
Und das ist das Besondere hier.
To live and bear witness to friendship. This was the message launched from the 40th meeting of bishops from various churches held in Augsburg, Germany, and organized by the Focolare movement, with the Bishop of Augsburg, Bertram Meyer. Almost 60 bishops took part from 26 countries and 30 Christian denominations. Dare to be One was the title of the conference. It offered ample space for exchange, contributions on ecumenical initiatives in the bishops' various regions of origin, and the spiritual impetus of the spirituality of unity. They spoke of unity and diversity, of synodality, of commitment to peace. They shared joys but also concerns and sufferings of their respective communities.
The unity in diversity is really saying, I am welcome you as you are. When we share our wounds with each other, and knowing and recognizing my wound and going to someone who has wounds, then we become healers to each other. There's no reconciliation without repentance, without forgiveness, without transformations.
The meeting in Augsburg also recalled an important moment of reconciliation. It had first taken place between the Catholic Church and the Lutheran World Federation, and later many others joined in too. 25 years ago in St. Anne's Church, representatives of the two churches signed the historic joint declaration on the doctrine of justification. Now there were representatives of 30 denominations repeating the same promise, to live and walk together. In Augsburg, the bond between the churches and civil society has a long tradition. A peace agreement between Catholics and Lutherans was signed here after the 30 Years' War, and the mayor, Eva Weber, invited the guests to take the spirit of the Peace of Augsburg to the countries to which they will return.
And this is the really important thing about reconciliation, that you can put yourself entirely in the shoes of the other person. You know what it is they're thinking and feeling. And the churches have a part to play in that. They don't have, they're not the central performers or the central actors in it, but they do have a part.
The fraternal and warm relationships experienced during these days are sealed with a solemn pact.
Ich erlebe hier die Ökumene des Lebens.
What I experienced here is an ecumenism of life, and I also experienced an ecumenism of spirituality. Not that there is a lack of theology, it is at the core. Many sessions started with liturgical celebrations, so you need a suitable environment for ecumenism, namely the atmosphere ecumenism of life, but also an ecumenism of spirituality, so that we don't just work with our head, but also with our hearts.
Sondern mit dem Herzen.
And now the direct line with all of you. In the last link-up, we inaugurated this new feature that we have called Voices from the World. Please continue to send us your life experiences and stories so that we can share them here and on the focolare.org website. Let's now look at 2 of these experiences.
Marhaba.
Hello, my name is Mazin. I'm part of the Focolare movement and currently live in Erbil, Iraq. Many people got to know the movement in the 1980s thanks to His Excellency Bishop Shalimon Wadoni. After that, it arrived in different regions of Iraq. The first Focolare was opened in 1999 in Baghdad, but because of the wars and security challenges, it moved to Erbil in the north of the country. We recently celebrated the 25th anniversary of the opening of the Focolare. On this occasion, we celebrated a massive Thanksgiving, presided over by His Eminence Monsignor Bashar Mati Wada, Archbishop of the Chaldean Church of Erbil, who in his homily underlined the importance of the principle of human fellowship and dialogue based on mutual respect, which the Focolare movement seeks to show in carrying out its activities. Afterwards, we presented a general overview of the life of the Focolare, and especially of its presence in Iraq. The celebration was attended by many people, including the Secretary of the Apostolic Nuncio in Iraq, bishops, priests, men religious, and consecrated women. We were happy to experience this moment, characterized by a great spirit of participation and love, and enriched by the experiences of some of the members who shared how the spirituality of unity has influenced their lives.
Last May, Genved held a workshop and concert here in Szeged at the Kosul Susanna Vocational School, where I work, and we were keen to continue the relationship with the school and the students. A teacher suggested that we should join forces to do something for the homeless and those living in poverty, and we were happy to respond. So together with the Diocesan Caritas, the Order of Malta, the local parish and the school, we organised an afternoon of fellowship.
It was a great pleasure to participate in the afternoon of fellowship. The program was valuable for us in 2 ways. It helped to increase the social awareness of our students and to develop a sense of solidarity. And it also helped them to learn to give.
In a great spirit of collaboration, a special celebration was prepared. Everyone enthusiastically got involved. The school prepared a cultural program, the parish provided financial support and space,
the Order of Malta
and the Caritas extended personal invitations, prepared tea and crepes. We, as the Focolare community, cooked and brought equipment. About 50 helpers were present, and more than 100 people received a hot meal that day. Everyone was very happy to be there. For example, one of the guests said with a beaming face, "The dinner was delicious, but the company is worth even more." We experienced the power that can come from the community from working together, and we were all convinced that none of us could have done it alone. The love we gave and received brought us all together, and we want to repeat this experience and continue it as a tradition.
És szeretnénk ezt a tapasztalatot megismételni, és hagyományként tovább folytatni.
In a dimension which is as fragmented and divided as the one we live in, we are often called to go towards the unknown, towards the peripheries. We are called to go out, sometimes even outside of ourselves, to enter into the wounds of humanity. And this is something that certainly requires a good dose of courage, but it is fruitful for those who receive and for those who give. This is the testimony that comes to us from the neighborhood of Hungary in Santiago, Chile.
Yo pensaba que lo principal era dar de comer.
I thought that the main thing was to provide food, because one comes with the idea of helping to change things, of being able to give opportunities. But the reality of our street friends, our immigrant friends, is so strong that deep down they help us to look at and understand their reality. This has been key for me because I don't have to change anything or pretend to do anything.
In Santiago, the capital of Chile, the Focolare decided to move some of the women's Focolare to the Yungay neighborhood, to go towards the peripheries, to meet people who are vulnerable.
Yo considero que la presencia del Focolare en el barrio Yungay.
The presence of the Focolare in the Yungay neighborhood is an expression of the Holy Spirit's call to the movement. This at a time when the movement is trying to find meaning in its work, especially being close to the poor.
Marcial, a layperson of the Divine Word, explains the complexity of the neighborhood.
Tiene como dos áreas grandes, digamos, y hay
There are two large areas in this neighborhood. There's one area where there are people living on the streets, consuming alcohol, and the other area is more complex. It has other problems such as crime and a high focus on drug trafficking.
Factores como delincuencia y narcotráfico más marcados.
And it's precisely in this troubled area that the Focolarine have come to live.
Han venido a vivir las Focolarinas.
It's great. It's a gift to meet them there and generate a bit of light in this troubled area.
After a difficult period in her life, Lucia arrived in Yungay in November 2021 with Annette and Paula.
Venir a Yungay fue como encontrarme con este rostro de Jesús sufriente.
Arriving in Yungay was like meeting the face of the suffering Jesus in all these people living on the streets, the elderly who are all alone, families with children. And I felt that it was like two things coming together. I'm starting again to cultivate my union with God, which I had never really lost, as well as going to meet Him in these people. Then I was asked if I could take charge of the coordination of the vulnerable elderly and the at-risk families. I accepted without knowing what it meant. And the truth is that with the elderly people, I feel that it's been truly beautiful because they've given me back my tenderness.
Annette, a German Focolarina, joined the project after she had already been living in Argentina for a few years.
Me fascinó como el primer día hicimos un giro.
I was spellbound. On the first day, we took a tour around the neighborhood because we consider the neighborhood as our home, and we came here to the Frey Foundation with Alvaro. This is a foundation that was created to support Haitian migrants here in Chile. Frey means brothers. So we started with a project involving the Haitians, supporting especially the families, the women, and an ecological project. This is how the Haiti Garden was born, which you can see over here.
I'm thinking back to the year 1988 when the first Christmas on the streets took place. That's where the whole Hungary experience comes from. Now, seeing that a focolare is opened here and that there are personal relationships being built, it's not just an activity, it's a completely different thing. It gives it strength, it gives it a real sense of fraternity.
Chile es un país con profundas desigualdades.
Chile is a country with deep-rooted inequalities, and this yearning for unity has to do with living in this gap, in this contrast. I think that approaching a neighborhood like Hungary gives us this opportunity. We feel that we were brought here, let's say, by God himself, because the circumstances were very, very fortuitous on how we arrived here. Many social and cultural realities converge here. There are people of various origins, they're very different among themselves. It's a poor neighborhood that asks itself questions also regarding the gaps and how they can live them in this area.
Jesús Morán, co-presidente del Movimento dei Focolari.
Jesús Morán, co-president of the Focolari movement. Welcome. You know well what lies behind the experiences we've just heard. You've recently been to Hungary and you lived several years in Chile. What is the significance of the Focolari's presence in these places and what is the movement's contribution?
Esperienze molto belle, anche quelle dell'Iraq.
They are indeed very beautiful experiences, also the one from Iraq. In fact, they touch me deeply, because I know the places, I know the people. I saw that the community of Szeged is a community that's very much present in society and in the church. Over time, it's become a reference point for relationships, fraternity, and the promotion of a more human society. They've held fairs there to highlight local produce. They also hold ecumenical meetings, interreligious meetings, and indeed, as we've seen, also moments of sharing with those who are most deprived.
Momenti di condivisione con le persone più diseredate, no? Poi in Cile sono stato 23 anni.
I was in Chile for 23 years, and I spent the first few years in the neighborhood right next to Hungary, the location of that last item. It seems to me that what is happening there in Hungary, the option that the Focolaris have taken, is a response to one of the biggest problems of Chilean society, which is inequality on the one hand, and on the other, a lack of integration between the social classes for a common national project.
Di tutte le classi sociali in vista ad un progetto comune di nazione. Questo è il
This is the real problem in Chile.
del Cile.
The experience that's happening there, even though small, because it's only at the beginning, is very complete and gives hope, obviously, because it's something truly new. Truly new.
Perché è una cosa veramente nuova, veramente nuova. Adesso mettendo insieme le due esperienze, io direi che
Putting the two experiences together, I would like to underline that they are an incarnation of what we proposed to ourselves as the Focolari movement at the last two assemblies, in 2014 and 2021. To go out, to meet the face of Jesus crucified and forsaken in today's society.
Sempre senza perdere mai di vista la nostra identità che è il che tutti siano uno di Gesù.
Without ever losing sight of our identity, which is Jesus' prayer that all may be one, everything we do, this going out to meet the face of Jesus forsaken, is always with a view to that all may be one. We are doing it with others, in fact, because you can see very well in the two experiences that we are not acting alone. We are doing it with other institutions, with other groups that are working in the same direction. And I think this responds well to what the movement is today.
Grazie, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. We will now pass on to Chiara's thought on new evangelization. It's a short talk Chiara gave in Rome during the World Youth Day at Tor Vergata. I was there, and who knows how many of you there with me, along with over 2 million young people. Let's listen to it.
You know that today words are no longer enough. Young people especially do not listen so much to teachers as to witnesses. They want facts. So evangelization will be new if those who proclaim the gospel are first of all genuine, authentic Christians who are the first to live what the gospel teaches, so that people can say of them what they said of the early Christians. Look how they love one another and how they are ready to die for one another. Furthermore, evangelization will be new if they also love all other men and women without distinction, and it will be new if these Christians will love in a concrete way by actively helping to give food, clothes and shelter to those in need. And finally, it will be new, pay attention here, if they speak and proclaim the gospel, but only after doing all of this. Such Christians, I assure you, attract the world to Jesus. They make people fall in love with him, so that the kingdom of God spreads beyond all expectations and the church is strengthened and grows. It grows in such a way that these Christians can look far into the future, as Jesus did when he called everyone to universal fraternity. Praying to the Father, may they all be one. It might seem to be a wild dream, but it is possible because it is the dream of a God, and they believe in it. There are thousands, millions of young people from all nations who are walking towards this very goal. It is to them that John Paul II said, "History is made by those who look toward the future. The others are dragged along." My dear young people, the Pope also addresses these words to all of you today. Don't disappoint him. Don't disappoint us. This is what I wish for you with all my heart.
Siamo qui insieme a Margaret Karram.
Here we are with Margaret Karram, the president of the Focolare movement. Welcome, Margaret. History is made by those who look toward the future. The others are dragged along. These are very powerful words of St. John Paul II that Chiara has just quoted in her message to the young people at Tor Vergata. Margaret, based on your experience, could you tell us how should we transmit to young people what Chiara calls the attraction of Jesus? That is, what kind of proclamation do young people expect?
What I can say is that what's missing in the hearts of men and women today, and especially of young people, is precisely hope. Pope John Paul II said, "Look toward the future." But in the world we live in today, especially for young people, what kind of future is there for them to look towards? In a world where there are wars, violence, conflicts, natural and environmental disasters. The young people have so much loneliness in their hearts, so perhaps they are afraid of the future. And yet, and that's our responsibility of us adults, to be able to stand beside them and not let them be overwhelmed by this despair. I think this is the most important thing we can do, to be there for them and enable them to believe. But to believe because it's our faith that tells us this, not because we don't see all the difficult situations we're living, which are tragic, but our faith tells us that we can believe in a God who loves us, and that we can look at this world with his eyes. So what I could suggest is that we can really be close to these young people live with them, adults and young people, all of us together. A key word for me is together. This together, that they're not alone, but we are beside them, and we're walking together. And together we can make this change in the world. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So we want to make this change, but first of all, we must be this change. And I think the title of the GenFest, Together to Care, can also be a wonderful opportunity to live this hope. This can really put us alongside young people so as to believe in that future that is perhaps still seen as so difficult, but we can change it because we believe in this different world.
Speaking of the GemFest, this year it will take place in Brazil as well as in various parts of the world. What would you like to say to those who are preparing to live this moment?
Allora, questo GenFest io lo vedo come una grande opportunità.
I see this GemFest as a great opportunity, a real chance, not only for young people, but for everyone in the Focolare movement. Because it's not just an event, a festival, a gathering of young people to party for a few hours, for a few days. This time, the GemFest wants to be a real experience of that change that we want to bring to the world. I see this GemFest as an event that we're already living now, and that when we get there in Brazil or in the many other parts of the world where the GemFest will take place, it will really be a witness of this life that we've begun to live. What we want to do is to be alongside people who are suffering. And this GemFest has several stages. It's not just singing or reciting words, but concretely living close to people who are suffering. And even if it were just for one day or 1 hour, or even if it were just for 1 minute, that we can give these people whom we'll work with and live with a moment of hope, a moment of comfort, the GenFest will already be something beautiful. I hope that we can already live it from today, building pieces of fraternity wherever we'll be in the next few months. Because then we can be credible when we get to the GenFest, and we can invite many others to participate. I also hope this GenFest can involve everyone, not just young people, because it's an experience for all of us to be able to live it together with the young people, to truly offer this care to others. Care for people who suffer, but also to take care of creation and of those who pass us by. I think only in this way can we truly bear witness to the attraction of living like Jesus, as Chiara's just told us. And to be able to give this testimony of together to care, I think this will be the strongest witness, because the mutual love we will have lived between us in these next months will be the most powerful witness we can give.
Thank you, Margaret.
Grazie a te, Maria Grazia.
Thank you, Maria Grazia. And as we are approaching Holy Week, I want to take this opportunity to send my most heartfelt and warmest wishes to everyone in the world for a very happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you too, Margaret. And staying on the topic of the GemFest, let's now find out more about what the first phase of this event is. Young people, both in Brazil and in the various parts of the world, will be involved in volunteering activities within some social organizations that already are carrying out their work in various areas. The aim of this first phase is not to live isolated experiences, but to create and give continuity to a network destined to last over time. Let's get to know one of these organizations involved in this process.
Estamos de volta com mais notícias.
We're back with more news about GenFest 2024. I'm Gustavo Monteiro, and I'm here today in Guaratinguetá, in a city 180 kilometers from the capital of Sao Paulo, and just 20 minutes from Aparecida, the city that will host GenFest's central event. The event will have 3 phases: volunteering, the central event, and the citizenship school. Let's get to know the Fazenda da Esperança, one of the institutions that will be hosting young people from all over the world during the first stage of the event. So far, 49 institutions have registered. If you want to find out more, just visit our website. So let's find out a bit more about the Fazenda.
A Fazenda da Esperança é uma comunidade terapêutica.
Fazenda da Esperança is a therapeutic community that has been active since 1983 in the recovery process of people seeking freedom from their addictions, mainly alcohol and drugs. And this story began with the watchful eye of a young man. Nelson was 20 years old when he began to live the words of the gospel in a concrete and radical way. Together with Father Hans Staple, he was one of the protagonists in the creation of Fazenda da Esperança. And now we're very happy to be able to talk to him.
Olá, Nelson. Muito obrigado por me receber.
Eu já estava com 20 anos de idade e tinha me fascinado.
I was 20 years old and I was fascinated by the proposal to live the gospel and in the gospel discover the power of love. On my way home from work, I would pass a street corner where 20 young people were coming together to take drugs. I felt a desire to approach them, but I was blocked by fear. It was a phrase from the gospel that took away my fear. That phrase from St. Paul's letter to the Corinthians that says, I made myself weak with the weak, I made myself all things to all people in order to win some over to Christ. This gave me the inspiration to approach one of them, and I asked him if he could teach me how to make a handmade bracelet. He took me to his house, where we spent 2 hours together, and it was an unforgettable moment for me. I spent the whole time learning what he knew, and he told me his whole life story. Then, before I left his house with 3 bracelets in my hand, he took me by the arm and looked me in the eyes and said, I want to tell you something. I feel that for the first time in my life, I've found a real friend. This and many other experiences happened over the course of 2 months, until one day, one of them, called Antonio, came to me and told me that he had made a decision. He didn't want to live like that anymore. He was no longer using drugs. He didn't want to see his mum suffer anymore. And then he said to me, look, I need someone to accompany me 24 hours a day. Take me wherever you want. I want to get out of this. When he told me that, I realized straight away that I couldn't be the person to be with him 24 hours a day. I realized that I had to tell him who had brought me there. And then I invited him to take part in the Mass at the parish with Father Hans and suggested to him that we should try living the gospel together.
In addition to this Fazenda, where we are today, there are 170 others in the 27 countries. And to make all this possible, the Fazenda has men and women volunteers who decided to spend some time here.
For me, the strongest thing I learned is the concrete day-to-day experience that everything can be an act of love. From the start of the day to the time I go to bed, everything is an act of love and can really be done out of love.
Que o amor é uma decisão.
Since love is a decision, that's why when you decide, overcoming all the difficulties that come and living an experience of faith, you will experience what the gospel itself says. God is not outdone in generosity. To love is really a decision, saying yes to a project that involves us personally, even when we're afraid of not succeeding.
This is what some of the young people asked themselves, so they were able to transform into music and words their desire to make a difference.
Anche se a volte è difficile
camminare in questo mondo. Ogni istante della vita è una scelta, un traguardo, una strada in salita. C'è qualcosa che ci lega, ci muove dentro, ci spinge a uscire fuori da noi, proprio quando ci sentiamo fragili, perché ci vuole coraggio per cambiare le cose, per chiedere...
Ciao, siamo gli S1.
Hi, we are S1, the Gen, young people of the Focolare movement, who come from various cities in northern Italy. Our experience started in January 2020, when we were asked to use our talents to offer something in an event for Chiara Lubich's centenary.
We all had a passion for music and started to make music together. The pandemic stopped us, but as soon as possible we started meeting up again and our relationships grew stronger.
Our new song, called It Takes Courage, stems from our desire to change things. This starts with our everyday actions. To do this, we need courage. We were inspired by a writing of Chiara Lubich, One City is Not Enough, in which Chiara invites everyone to look around, helped by those close to us. So we listened to each of our ideas and created a list with the keywords we shared. So these lyrics were born. And this song, in which we really highlight our desire to become protagonists.
Siamo stati chiamati, questo è il nostro viaggio. Cambieremo il buio, luci, dubbi, incoraggio. Per le ingiustizie alzeremo la voce, abbatteremo i muri e cercheremo la pace. Una città non basta, solo l'amore resta. Lasceremo una traccia, anche un solo bagliore, un segno di speranza per un mondo migliore.
Perché ci vuole coraggio per cambiare le cose, per chiedere aiuto.
Ovviamente scrivere un testo e una canzone da
Obviously, writing a song from scratch is not easy because we are of different ages, different life experiences and have different tastes.
Grazie ad una grande esperienza di condivisione.
But thanks to a great experience of sharing, we overcame this difficulty and came up with It Takes Courage. Two adults who are professional musicians helped us in this adventure. They accompanied us in writing, arranging and producing this new song.
Nell'arrangiare e nel produrre questa nuova canzone.
We are now determined to continue this project. Our dream is for each of us to be able to tell a personal experience through a song. We want as many people as possible to get to know that even through small experiences you can launch a message of hope.
Grazie agli S1 per questa bellissima canzone.
Thank you to As1 for this beautiful song and for their testimony. We remind everyone that you can listen to It Takes Courage on the band's social channels. Maria Grazia, we've reached the end of this link-up.
Yes, we've reached the end. But before we leave, we want to remind you of something very important for the GemFest. We have the possibility to contribute financially so that many young people will be able to participate, to support those in the Latin American social activities and to help those with great economic hardships. You will find information regarding this on the website gemfest.org.
I'd like to remind everyone that you can watch this link up again on our YouTube channel in different languages, and you can share all the various contents on your social networks. Also, if you activate the bell, you can always stay up to date.
We will see you again on the 15th of June 2024 at 8 p.m. Italian time.
Ciao a tutti!